Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is All New Love and Romance, issue number 19, dated November 1974. Again, this follows the Charleston Comics format. Three stories of love. Couple of them are a little ambiguous because we're not even 100% certain that the couple at the end is even dating, because it's sort of that open ended. The last one is probably the best story. It's definitely the best drawn story. The art's wonderful in it. Um, Once again, it's by that really talented guy. I don't know his name. He thinks he's the nice guy, but he isn't. Because he's definitely writing these stories, and he's writing himself as the hero, and he is not the hero. Okay, so the artist that I'm talking about, actually, it looks like he did the cover, because this is what their art looks like. I'm assuming it's a guy because I'm not sure a woman would write these stories. Very attractive woman, kind of has a kind of like a Barbara Bach look to her, and she's saying, "Save it, Lester. We've had fun, but you're getting a little too serious." And we see kind of Lester kind of foisting himself onto this young woman in question. Beautifully drawn cover, I have to say. So I'm going to go into the story. First story is Who Needs Love? And there are three protagonists here, and kind of a fourth important supporting character. This story is one where the female protagonist doesn't leave with the guy she initially thought she would be leaving, but with another guy. Okay, so and our protagonists are, I believe, is Peter. Peter is the first male protagonist. I think Nick is the second, and Cleo is our female protagonist. I can make sure. Jeff, actually, so it's so forgive me. It's Peter, Jeff, and Cleo, and Mrs. Watkins. So we open up splash page here. It's in a corporate office, modern for its time. This is 1974, and it looks very much like 1974. We see a young executive, and he is talking presumably to his secretary. The secretary is like hanging on the desk rather provocatively, somewhat provocatively. This should, yeah, the secretary should not be taking notes on the desk like this. But nevertheless, we see the two are talking. Apparently, Peter is asking Cleo to stay overtime in the office because there are some important letters that he wants her to dictate and type out. This is before the days of the word processor, so people actually had to use typewriters. Cleo is fine with that. Cleo is also noticing that her boss Peter is taking some interest in her, at least physically. So then what happens is it turns out that Peter did not really have six letters that needed to be typed out. It was only three, and Cleo felt that this could have been done during normal working hours. So she obviously is aware of this sort of pretext that Peter is using to kind of have a dinner date with her. Because that's what Peter offered. He said, "Listen, if you stay overtime, I'll take you somewhere to eat after work." So anyway, it turns out the two actually went to the same high school at the same time. It looks like Cleo was a freshman and Peter was a senior, and he was the star quarterback. So he was the football star of the high school campus, and Cleo kind of admired him from afar. But the thing is, Cleo never dreamt that he actually knew who she was. But it turns out that this guy's a bit of a chicken hawk. He says, "Yeah, I noticed you. When all the new freshmen come in, I'm looking at them." So this guy's kind of a perv. And the thing was, he said that he did not date her he said he wanted to date her, but he didn't date her because of the social norms. So he was shamed, socially shamed, rather than actually morally, righteous, lack of a better word, about like going after this very young freshman. So kind of a jerk here right now. So it was against the social norms of the high school. I remember that a little bit, particularly in my grade school, where the third graders only hung out with the third graders, the fourth graders with the fourth graders. It was very my grade school was very it was set up with that type of social hierarchy. It was a little less so in high school. Um, so anyway, the two are getting closer. We're seeing a little Vince Coletta inking here, where the person did not want to put much detail into drawing the guy, so he's just entirely in shadow here. So anyway, we see the two, Peter and Cleo, embracing. So then we see a panel here where the two of them are talking. It's clearly in the dark. So the thing is, um, they're not actually explaining where they are exactly, but they are talking about tomorrow's plans. And I think Cleo says here, and I'll fix a snack later here at my apartment. So I think Cleo took him home. So, you know what? Maybe the boss is married. But nevertheless, Cleo doesn't seem to believe that. So they make the decision that they're going to go to the beach tomorrow. Because I guess this is Friday. We see them, the two of them are at the beach. Cleo looking very beautiful. Very well built in her two-piece bikini here. I'm trying to think who she kind of looks like. Um, Maybe I was tempted to say Cheryl Ladd, but I don't think so with that hair. Um, maybe Goldie Hawn a little bit. Okay, I can't think of anyone I should say. So anyway, we see Cleo is very beautiful. She is talking about a neighbor of hers that she has a great deal of respect for, and that is Mrs. Watkins. And apparently Cleo had mentioned Peter to Mrs. Watkins. And Mrs. Watkins has kind of a negative opinion about Peter, even though I don't think they met. This is what Cleo is imparting. She doesn't think I should go steady with anyone. See, Mrs. Watkins is an old maid, sort of, about 40, but she never got married. She's got a terrific job in a department store. Okay, a little bit of the sexism, because Mrs. Watkins, she has this big important job in a department store, and she's described as an old maid, even though they're not even sure if she's over 40. So, yeah, I think the Charleston guys were sort of conservative, so they were like, if you're a young woman, you have to marry really, really young. Peter, I should say, doesn't really like the Mrs. Watkins. He says, "Sounds like sour grapes, Cleo. The old gal just couldn't find anyone who'd marry her." Cleo defends her neighbor. "That isn't true, Peter. She's a very attractive woman." That's kind of some Brady Bunch dialogue. So anyway, so we see here that there is an older figure who is very well respected, who is against this coupling, even though she has actually never met this guy. I guess she heard or knows of him through osmosis. So then finally, Mrs. Watkins and Peter, they meet. Again, Cleo is taking Peter back to her apartment. So I guess they're kind of implying something there. And the thing is, the reason why Mrs. Watkins is at the apartment is that Peter is there to have dinner. But the thing is, he also told Peter, "Hey, I'm going to invite Mrs. Watkins." So Peter isn't being sandbagged here because he knew she'd be there. It looks like what's happening is that as Cleo is kind of cooking the dinner in the kitchen, we see Peter and Mrs. Watkins. They're talking. Peter says, "Do you dislike men in general, or just me in particular, Mrs. Watkins?" And Mrs. Watkins answers back, "You're like a lot of men, Mr. Dawes, conceited, arrogant, and you think any girl should be delighted to have you." Peter answers back, "You're a dried up, sour old witch, Mrs. Watkins. You couldn't get a man, so you knock all men. And when you knock Peter, you knock all men everywhere." So we can see that these two don't like each other. Peter's a little bit of a jerk. Mrs. Watkins, she has a very detailed list of why she dislikes Peter, even though she really doesn't know the guy. But the thing is, Peter's behavior isn't disproving Mrs. Watkins' judgments of him. So anyway, Mrs. Watkins left because she didn't like being insulted. And Cleo and Peter, they're talking it out. Cleo says, "Peter, that wasn't nice. Mrs. Watkins was and is a beautiful woman. She can still get her man." Because we know that's how the true measure of a woman's value is, whether she can get a guy. Peter doubts it. "I doubt it, Cleo. Darling, let's forget her. What matters is I love you and I want to marry you." Cleo goes, "Oh, Peter." So anyway, it looks like the two are going to be engaged or are engaged. However, Peter isn't acting that way in the office. It turns out that after getting this deep commitment from Cleo, Peter's kind of lost interest in her. This could be that Peter probably viewed Cleo as kind of like a subconscious prize, so to speak. And he wanted to extract some type of great personal sacrifice from her. And then, he got it when she says, "I want to marry you." And then Peter said, "Sucker." And Peter's just moving on to other women. The challenge is gone. He's already got his supply. So he's looking at other girls for this type of supply. And one of them is Lita, like in Futurama. So anyway, Lita is a new girl in the office. Cleo had gone to a spot in the park where they normally have lunch. But the thing is that Peter's there, but he also brought Leela with him. And and Cleo's kind of definitely off put by this. She's really surprised, and she's kind of beside herself. Cleo is asking, "Peter, what about our date? Are we Peter?" Peter's looking at Leela, saying, "You're new in town, Leela. I've got to show you around." So again, the challenge is gone for Peter. For Peter, I should say, not Peter. And Cleo is left in tears. She's thinking to herself, "He doesn't want to marry me. He doesn't even want to know me now that he's found a new office playmate." So yeah, she realizes that she was kind of being played here. Then we see an image that we've seen before from Campello, and this is Cleo. She's laid out on the bed. She's in her underwear, which is kind of a bikini type underwear, because she has the bra on, but she doesn't have any straps. And I do not think strapless bras existed in the 1970s. So anyway, we see Cleo. She's crying, drawn very beautifully. And there's a knock at the door. And Cleo is thinking maybe it's Peter. Maybe Peter has come back and he realized the errors of his way. But turns out that's not the case. Turns out that Miss Watkins is there, kind of looking like Polaris in that she's in all green, including her hair. So anyway, Mrs. Watkins wants Cleo to get dressed up so they can go out on the town. No, no, not that type of dinner date here. It turns out that Mrs. Watkins had been planning this. Cleo, she doesn't want to go. She's saying, "I'll never trust another man, Mrs. Watkins. Look at you. You get along just fine without a man." Mrs. Watkins answers back, "Yes, it does seem that way, doesn't it?" So you get the idea that Mrs. Watkins really isn't not the she's not the happy old maid. Sometimes being an old maid weighs on her, particularly when you're not even 40. Turn the page. So anyway, Cleo and Mrs. Watkins, they're in a swanky restaurant, and it turns out that Mrs. Watkins actually has a guest. And it turns out that Mrs. Watkins wants to introduce Cleo to this guest, and the guest turns out to be Mrs. Watkins' nephew, Jeff. So this is Mrs. Watkins' favorite nephew. Excuse me. And it turns out that this is definitely kind of like a date that has been set up, a match, so to speak, by an older trusted relative who can vouch for this person's good character. And we see Jeff. Jeff's a good looking guy here. Looks a little like Michael Landon. Mrs. Watkins, who does she look like? Maybe maybe a little like Lee Grant, or yeah, I'll stick with Lee Grant. Okay, so anyway, it turns out Mrs. Watkins, she's gonna leave. She's had her fill of the nightlife. This is 9 o'clock. Past her bedtime, because remember, she's an old maid, and she leaves Cleo and Jeff for the night. They enjoy themselves, and then Cleo, it looks like she's embracing Jeff here, a passionate kiss. She thinks to herself, well, maybe being an old maid isn't such a good idea after all. And that is the end. So the thing is, they're not officially dating, although obviously that's the road that they're heading toward. So we can't fully say that they're a couple because they haven't actually dated either one, but it kind of looks very promising at this point. Okay, so there is a find a word in this issue. There's no advice column, sadly, in this issue. It looks like it's kind of Halloween based. So yeah, this if the comic book is dated November, then it would still be out on the stands in October, because the comic book companies wanted the newsstands to carry the comics for at least 3 months. So the thing is, because distribution varied depending on the region. In New York, we got the comics, the moment they were released. But, in other places, they might have had to wait a month or even 2 months behind the rest of the country because their distribution was so slow. Okay, so we see, looking for kind of like these ghostly words. Okay, so the next story is That Special Night. And the protagonists are Donna. Donna's also a blonde who kind of looks a little like who does she look like? Maybe Olivia, I don't want to say Olivia Newton-John, but she looks a lot like Olivia Newton-John with longer hair. And Brad, and there's another guy who punches Brad. So there's Tony, but Tony as in Tini, Toni, I should say. Jay, okay, Jay's the other guy. Yeah, there's really not a lot of nice people in this story. To be honest, yeah. Um, maybe the female protagonist Donna because she's just so clueless. She might be decent just based on stupidity rather than a good moral compass. The other characters really don't have a good moral compass. So I'm gonna go into it, and we see Brad and we see Donna, and they're on Inspiration Point. This is the mythical place in Happy Days where any of the characters wanted to make out with their dates. So they're at this kind of inspiration point. Um, Donna and Brad, they do have some romantic ideas in mind. Donna is expecting Brad for a marriage proposal. So she thinks that he's going to ask her to be married. Brad looks like he wants to put on the moves here. So Brad has different ideas. He has kind of Ron Jeremy type ideas. But nevertheless, Donna wants to go home because she didn't get the proposal that she was waiting for. Even though she's the one calling the night early. So, I mean, she could have waited around a little bit longer. You see, the art is by Nicholas Aceta. I'm not sure how that name's pronounced. It looks Portuguese. But yeah, I've seen this guy. This guy was one of the few, or Charleston's few standard artists. So anyway, the two are, Brad is driving Donna back home. Donna still lives at home. Donna is a good girl. And it turns out that there's going to be a dance at the country club. And this is one of these communities where, what happens in the country club is of vital importance to the entire community. You could see this type of country club mentality in a film called All That Heaven Allows. It's a Rock Hudson film, but it's a really good film. And I recommend seeing it. And that has very much that country club vibe. So anyway, there's a country club dance. And Donna wants, Brad to say, hey, let's go. And I hope, we have a good time. So anyway, Donna is asking about what she should wear. Brad tells her, wear something with a little pizzazz, baby. Something that's not complicated.
Don't wear anything complicated.
So anyway, the two kiss goodnight, but they kiss at the car. So good girl Donna is bothered by this, by the fact that Brad doesn't escort her to the door, I should say. So not only does he not take her to the door, he also drives off very suddenly, kind of like going from 0 to 60. And this bothers Daddy, because Daddy doesn't like the racket. Daddy's kind of a get off my lawn type of guy. And so Daddy's boomer mentality really doesn't like Brad and him being rude, or perceived these small little things as being rude. So anyway, it turns out Donna, she heads to the office where Brad works. Apparently, the office is opened on Saturdays. I got the feeling this is sort of a department store. So it would make sense where some of these executive types would be working there. Or maybe he works on the floor, but as a manager. But Donna's going to want Brad to have some type of status. So anyway, she doesn't find Brad at the office, but she finds Jay. Jay is there. He knows Donna, kind of has his eye on her. And the thing is that Jay also snitches out Brad. Because it turns out that Brad is not in the office. And the reason he's not in the office is that he's taking the country club tennis instructor, Tony, with an I at the end, so it's a female. she's a female, and yeah, Jay's just telling her this casually. But then he says to her, Tony Shea, he plays tennis with her sometimes. Nothing serious. So Brad's a little, no, I should say Brad is conniving, and so is Jay, but also in kind of different ways. Take a look at this ad. It's an ad for women's underwear, which, god damn it, there must have been so much fabric in these undergarments. They're not charging much in terms of shipping, so your shipping was really cheap back then. Okay, so we have this image here of Donna. She's thinking of Tony. Tony is the country club's tennis instructor. And of course, she has the typical female or women's tennis outfit. Her skirt is raised, her panties are showing. Why this imagery is in Donna's head, I'm not quite sure. Maybe she's jealous that she's not the one on the dinner date with Tony. But nevertheless, Donna is not happy about this. Then we see Donna. She's getting ready for the dance. Dad comes in. Dad says, "You look marvelous, Donna. I just wish I thought Brad was good enough for you." And so Dad is voicing his displeasure about Brad. Donna is trying very hard not to hear this. We see the dad and why he dislikes Brad. Quote, "There's Romeo, summering you as usual by blowing the horn." And Donna's really bothered because, Dad is just so irritated with Brad. So the two are driving to the country club. Brad has a convertible, and this is bothering Donna because it's mussing her hair. But the thing is, Brad likes the top down, so he's just racing along, not being terribly considerate about Donna's feelings. So it turns out they reach the dance, but the thing is, because Donna's hair is a little bit of a mess, she has to make a quick trip to the ladies' room. And it turns out that during that time, Brad took advantage of the situation, and he's currently dancing with Tony, the tennis instructor. Tony, who she kind of looks like Christina Hendrickson, a little bit. She has a little bit of Shirley MacLaine in her too. Probably closer to Shirley MacLaine than Christina Hendricks' son. So anyway, Donna comes out of the ladies' room. She sees Brad and Tony dancing. She is very unhappy about this. Turn the page. But before she can reach them, she's intercepted by Jay. So Jay is also a member of the country club. And he's sort of waiting to sandbag Donna here. And it turns out Jay, who might be kind of a supervillain here, because he's also in all green. He's looking like a young Joker here. He's telling Donna, "What does he know? He never did have too many smarts, Donna. And don't stand around like a lost dog. Pretend you don't give a hoot." And Donna says, "I guess you're right, Jay. Why don't we dance?" So anyway, you can see Jay's kind of a little bit of an opportunist, because he clearly had his eyes on Donna. He felt that Brad was kind of a dumbass, and at some point Brad was going to screw it up because Brad's Brad. And so he's kind of been waiting in the wings, sort of for this moment. And the thing is, it turns out that Brad and Donna actually are enjoying their dance, and it turns out Brad notices it. So Brad has noticed this, I should say, and so it has the effect. I think the idea was to make Brad jealous. But the thing is that Brad actually just takes Tony out to the balcony. So if Brad's kind of like bothered by this, he's not letting it show to Tony. I got the feeling that maybe Brad, rather than being jealous, said, "Hey, this is my opportunity to break it off with her." So this time Donna is determined to confront the two. Um, we see Jay. Jay wants to stop this confrontation by saying, "Look, Donna, let's go over there and join the gang. We..." "No, Jay. I want to know the truth once and for all." And then we see Tony and Brad. The two are embracing here. Donna sees this. She starts crying. She asks Jay, "Why did he take me here if he wanted to be with her?" Jay answers back, "He's the kind of creep who does things like this. Donna, now, stop thinking about him. He's not good enough for you. He's a great lover and all. How does he know? And all, but I happen to know he's a creep." Sounds like maybe Brad, Brad and Jay have a little history. Donna answers back, "That's funny. That's what my dad thinks too." Uh, Maybe Brad and her dad have a little bit of history. It seems like kind of personal information for these guys to be worried about. So now Jay knows the rules about women. Women, they're always looking for something. Some girls, they're looking for a shoulder to cry on. Other girls, they're looking for a knee to bounce on. And in this case, it's the latter. Donna needs a shoulder to cry on. And Jay is right there saying, "Baby, just let the tears flow." Then they're interrupted by Brad, who, by the way, it looks like his clothing looks like Jimmy Olsen's. So we have the young Joker and young Jimmy Olsen here. And the thing is, Brad, after finishing making out with Tony, he decides he wants to be possessive with Donna again, saying that she's my date, even though clearly they had broken it off. Jay's not buying it. She's saying, "She's not with you any longer, Horton. Now bug off. I don't like you, Simmons. I hate your guts, creep." This sounds like a kind of like a private argument in Kiss, the band. Turn the page. So the two are about to fight, but we actually don't see a fight. But it turns out that Jay he kind of knows some self defense techniques, and what he was able to do, he was able to grab on Brad's right arm and get it behind him. So at this point, Brad's kind of pinned and he can't fight. And Brad's kind of whining like a little girl here. So anyway, Jay's saying, "Listen, you're not a tough guy. Get out of here." So then Jay apologizes to Donna because of the scene that was made. But Donna doesn't want to go. She wants to stay with Jay here. And then the two of them head out to Inspiration Point. And it turns out that that Jay has liked Donna for a long time, but the thing is, there were sort of ships that would pass through the night. Whenever Donna was available, Jay was seeing someone, and when Jay was available, Donna was with someone. So they were sort of like that. At least Jay kind of respected those boundaries, and so that's why he had never actually been. He didn't display his romantic feelings toward her, lack of a better word. So then we see the two embrace, and then when they got home, two things happened that were extremely important to good girl Donna. One, Jay took her to the door. Jay walked her to the door. Very important to Donna. Two, she is not complaining about Daddy hearing the car. So it's not like with Brad where he was racing in and out of the driveway. Jay came in very respectable speed, and he's going to leave at a very respectable speed. So, and that's it. Again, the two aren't officially dating at this point, so we can't definitively say whether they make it or not. However, things are kind of looking good at this point here. Okay, the last story is Sweet Victory. And I can see the artist's name because he signed the work. Apparently, this was done in 1973, according to the signature. However, I can't really read it that well. As I had mentioned, I had seen this artist's work before. The drawings are amazing. The illustration is amazing. Uh, the nice guy is not a nice guy, and we do see it here. There's kind of like a lot of bitter incel resentment, and yeah, there's quite a bit of sexism in this story. So we're gonna start with our female protagonist is Grace, and the thing is, she considers herself kind of a liberated young woman. This is during the era of women's liberation, which started in the late 60s and was really kind of went through its height in the 1970s. And, you know, we see Grace. Grace is one of these non traditional women, I should say, where she doesn't just want to get married young and stay at home and be a housewife. You know, she wants her career. She wants, control of her personal life and her professional life and things like this. And of course, there were guys who were threatened by this, and this artist and writer was one of them, and he doesn't hide it. So anyway, we see Grace. She's with a guy called Lester. Lester, kind of really good-looking rock star type of guy. Kind of maybe looks a little like Peter Frampton here. He's very well dressed. I got a feeling that the person who drew this worked in the fashion field, so because the clothing is really well drawn, and we see kind of Lester's kind of coming on too strong, so he's kind of being Lester the molester. Yeah, Lester kind of has a Leisure Suit Larry type of feel to him. Well, it turns out that Lester here, he felt that he was getting messages from Grace here. Grace says, I wasn't sending out those messages. And this is why she had stopped during this romantic moment. I understand perfectly, sweetie. You are going to ask me to be your wife. I don't want to be owned by anyone. Goodbye, Lester. So, like, she kind of threw this guy out of her life, for having the audacity of wanting to marry her. And by the way, it's not even clear that he wants to do that. He's just saying to her, Grace, darling, you're the loveliest. And that's when Grace kind of dropped the hammer and said, stop it. So we get this idea that women can be a little bit cruel and a little bit standoffish. That's what we're learning here from this writer. And yeah, based on the way he views relationships, I'm sure this happened a lot where where whoever he was dating kind of like put the sudden brakes on it, and he didn't know why, and he said it must be her. Turn the page. So we go to the corporate offices here, because that's where Grace works, as kind of like these one of these young women liberators, as they were called back then. And it turns out this is an advertising agency, and it was during probably during the previous decade where a lot of women were going into the corporate workforce. But the thing was, there was definitely that glass ceiling where very few of them were able to rise into real positions of power or authority. A lot of them would work as secretaries, and a lot of them would end up doing most of their boss's work, but they never got the rewards. And of course, during this time, as more and more women are getting into the workforce, some of them do move up. If it's an absolute necessity. they would often do this. So the thing is, in the mid '70s, women were becoming more and more vocal about the unfairness and the patriarchy at the time, and it turns out that the women were kind of organizing to basically make their bosses, and that's from this artist's point of view, hire more women for diversity. So this, even though this was done in 1973, this is very much an anti-DEI story. So what's going on here is that Grace has an ally in the office, one of the few high up females, probably the highest up female. And the thing is, she's been pushing the CEO to hire more women into senior positions. And the thing is, she's threatening to strike. Well, she'll get all the other women to strike against the company if they don't start promoting more women. So from this artist's point of view, this poor white male CEO, he's sort of being made to do this. He's being made to diversify. And the thing is that while the office manager, her name is given later on, Mrs. Alden, I think. While Mrs. Alden is making the case for Grace, and the CEO does admit that Grace is qualified, but nevertheless, he has another candidate that he feels is also qualified, and that's a male. So, so the thing is, he has two equally qualified candidates. But nevertheless, the CEO wants to hire this white guy, because you know how hard white guys have it in America, and but the thing is, these women are not allowing him to do it, because the thing is, a lot of the women do fulfill important roles. If they start striking, that slows down the company. So what the CEO is going to do, and he kind of looks a little like Reed Richards, is that he's going to promote Grace to the senior editing position, or the account executive position, but Tony is the assistant. So the CEO is saying, listen, okay, Grace can have the title of being the number one, but she has to take Tony as the assistant, so I can make sure there's a male overlooking what this woman is doing. So he's kind of being a little bit of a jerk, but he's being a pragmatic jerk. So the thing is that the CEO has to tell Tony that he's not going to be the top accountant executive, that he's going to be the assistant. And Tony's very cynical. By the way, during this whole very well drawn meeting, Tony just happened to be in the corner there, just kind of like quietly listening, but nevertheless making his presence known. So anyway, but Tony Briggs, he's very cynical. He doesn't think that Grace is cut out for this, and he says it's going to be very interesting to see this woman doing this man's job. Now I should say, kind of a weird panel here, because one, Tony kind of looks like Danny Bonaducci. He looks like Danny Bonaducci in that film Hots, which is really bad, but I really recommend it. And Grace, maybe he kind of even looks like a little like Lori Partridge. I would say Grace kind of looks like Mary Tyler Moore. Yeah, that might not have been That might have been intentional by this artist. So anyway, it turns out that that Tony is quite the charmer in the office. So he sees these women. These women just can't help but melting, and Grace thinks to herself, all Tony Briggs has to do is smile at those idiots, and they go into orbit. See an ad here, kind of just for kind of like accessories, like jewelry accessories. This is stuff definitely kids would wear. You see a 10-year-old kid wearing. Kind of studs, genuine rhinestone, and some patches, and some kind of like Probably some very cheap rings and dog tags. So anyway, we go back to the story, and it turns out that Grace, whatever Grace decides or whatever she does, Tony has to sort of critique it and say, no, that's wrong. He's not gonna like this, our client. So that's what's going on here, where Grace has decided on, this is how they're going to approach the new ad campaign. But Tony's saying no, he won't like it. Trust me, I know this guy. He won't like it. And the thing is, the two are bickering, and Grace has kind of had enough of Tony kind of undermining her. And she says to him, "Look, Briggs, I'm the account executive. You're only my assistant." And Tony answers back, "I'd quit except for two reasons. You really need the help, and you've got a terrific figure." And then Grace is offended by this, and she throws kind of one of those cups that has pencils in it at him. I should add that Grace is wearing a short skirt and she's wearing black tights. And the thing is, drawing tights in a comic book is really hard, but this guy pulls it off. He is so good. And the art is just amazing here. So anyway, Grace is offended by this, and she says, "You conceited, overbearing, chauvinist male idiot." And then she says, "I'm going to tell Mr. Jacobs I want a new assistant." Tony said I had a nice figure. I didn't think he'd notice. So again, plenty of sexism here playing out. And yet you get the sense that the guy who wrote it, he wants women to be approving of it. Because in the end, she was charmed by Tony. Turn the page. So anyway, the thing is that Grace did follow through with Tony's suggestions. And she did change the ad, and it turned out the client loves it. And of course, this makes her look really good to the CEO, because the client is very happy with the sales job. Then Tony confronts Grace here. And he says, "So that's what they teach you in women's lib. Let someone else do all your work. Then you take all the credit." Grace weakly defends herself. "Well, isn't that exactly what most men do?" And then Tony says, "Maybe, but I'm not going to be used that way. I'll tell Jacobs I'm leaving. Find some other man to crucify." "Wait, Briggs, I'm sorry, I'm a terrible actor." So anyway, and then Grace, she starts begging at this point. She says, "Will I help if I say I'm sorry?" Briggs says, "A little, but not quite enough, beautiful. Goodbye, Mrs. Alden." And then, we see Grace here. She's crying, all upset that, Tony is leaving her. So it turns out that that the CEO does give Grace a new assistant. It's a woman, and of course, she is terrible at her job. So Grace is kind of beside herself, saying, why did I let that qualified man go? Why did I let that man who was better than me, whose advice I should have taken, why did I let him go? And instead, I'm stuck with this incompetent woman. And that's kind of like how things are going at this point. It turns out the CEO isn't happy with Grace since Tony left, because what's happening is that Grace has been missing deadlines, and she's been missing her work when she was supposed to deliver it. And the CEO has noticed, saying, "Listen, when Tony was here, everything was running well." Grace has no defense to that. She just starts whimpering. So then Mrs. Alden, who is the office manager, who is Grace's champion, they're having lunch. And apparently Mrs. Alden, the office manager, She hates all men, and she's doing what she can to get whatever men that are left that she can have fired. She's working on getting them fired. Grace is saying, Abe and Mike are good at their jobs, Olivia. If Tony hadn't quit. So the thing is that you have this angry militant feminist who is putting her agenda ahead of everything, and all these qualified men are being dismissed so they can have these unqualified female DEI hires. So there's a lot of male chauvinists in this very well drawn comic. This story. So the thing is, the two women, Tony's name comes up. No, actually, they're having lunch. And then Tony shows up. He just happens to be here, and he approaches them. He says, "Hi, chicks. Have you heard? I've gotten a much bigger job at Bartlow's agency. I hear you're having trouble, Grace." And Grace is saying, "I am, Tony." And Tony's saying, "Look, take it home with you tonight. I'll come by from the office and I'll straighten you out. I'll straighten it out, I should say." And Grace is like, "Oh, Tony, I'd really appreciate that." So what's going on is that they're working on a new ad campaign. Grace is behind in her deadlines, and she really has to produce a finished product. Tony has heard this, and he's offering to be the white knight here. Kind of like, he's white knighting her a little. So anyway, it doesn't matter to Olivia. Olivia still hates Tony because Tony is an arrogant asshole. And but Grace is coming along to the idea that men are just simply superior to women, and she says, "Male? Olivia, he's very good at his work. I really do need his help." So the thing is, Tony comes by Grace's apartment. He looks at the ad. He finishes up what needs to be done, and Grace is just slobbering all over him, saying, "Oh, Tony, I wouldn't get that all done in a month. How can I ever thank you?" Tony says, "2 ways, Grace. Like this." And he grabs her and he kisses her. And then he says, "And by having dinner with me. I mean as my guest. None of this women's lib pay on your own sort of thing." And then Grace says, "Women's lib? I don't even know what that is, darling." So at this point, Grace has been totally beaten down. At this point, she's seeing the light. This tells you how chauvinist this guy is. Where he's saying, "Why can't women comply like this everywhere?" Turn the page. See the two. They're at a fancy restaurant. It looks very well drawn artwork. Grace is thinking, this is what our chapter of Women's Lib is against, but it's nice to let a man look after me for a while. Then we see a kind of a romantic imagery here, somewhat. We see Tony. He's finally complimenting Grace, but he only compliments her on her physical appearance. He never actually compliments her on having anything smart to say or doing anything intelligent. In fact, whenever she produces work, he criticizes it. He only compliments her on her physical appearance. And it's interesting how the artist is using the candlelight here, where it kind of has, the background has kind of a tunnel effect. And you can imagine, the light at the end of the tunnel is probably an oncoming train of sexism. Because this woman, she's just finally accepting, the male chauvinist incel world. This is what a woman who accepts incel reality would be like. We see them at the park, beautifully drawn pigeons here. And then we see them at the beach. We see a little bit of Grace's top here. She's wearing a bikini. And the thing is that Tony wants to ask Grace for her hand in marriage. She's already accepted that this is what she wants also. Turn the page. The two kiss after this seemingly kind of very quick engagement. It turns out Olivia, Miss Howden, the office manager, she's there. And she sees, Grace kissing this man, and she says, "It's women like you who keep us shackled by all men." So it doesn't matter. The two, Grace and Tony, they get married. See the Reverend here. He kind of looks like the gym coach. But hey, they got married. They're going into the car, and as people are throwing rice at them, I think someone throws a shoe at Tony. It looks like probably Olivia threw a shoe at Tony. That's my guess. Yeah, Grace has noticed that Olivia and the rest of the women's livers are at the wedding, so they're the ones who probably threw the shoe. And it turns out too they drive off. They're supposed to honeymoon in Europe. They went to honeymoon in Paris, but they wanted to go Hawaii. I have no idea why that was mentioned. And they reach the Hotel Paris, and the two are toasting to their love. And then the last thing we see is Grace thinking, Olivia's a fool. Who wants to be liberated from this? And that's the end. And I guess as long as Grace's self-esteem continues to fall apart, this marriage will last. I'm sure on some level they'll be quite unhappy with each other, though. And that's it. And see this one ad here for stretch wigs, and you get an Afro wig, you get the London shag, the Freedom wig, Gypsy Love, all for under $10. Yeah, and you will get $10 worth of value. And that's it. And that is my review of Love and Romance number 19. I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.